Are you still being told that eggs are the gold standard for building muscle? For decades, eggs have been marketed as nature's perfect protein. But what if I told you there is a food that is not only cheaper, but can actually stimulate muscle growth more effectively, even if you are in your 70s or 80s? That is what the latest science is showing. And today we are going to unpack it together. Here's why this conversation matters. Muscle is not just about strength or appearance. It is your metabolic engine. It determines how efficiently you burn fat, how stable your blood sugar is, how resistant you are to falls and fractures, and even how long you live. Loss of muscle, what medicine calls sarcopenia, is one of the strongest predictors of disability and early death as we age. And here is the most surprising part. Muscle loss begins as early as our 30s. By the time you reach your 70s or 80s, if you have not been intentional about protecting and rebuilding your muscle, you could be functioning with less than half of what you started with. That is why nutrition choices become more powerful than ever in later decades. Now, eggs are rich in protein and nutrients like choline. No one is denying that. But what the research shows is that protein quality is about more than grams per serving. It is about how efficiently your body can use those amino acids to trigger a process called muscle protein synthesis. Think of this as the switch inside your body that tells your muscles grow, repair, and rebuild. Some foods flip that switch more effectively than others. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your muscles are like a construction site. You need bricks. Yes, that is the protein. But you also need the foreman who tells the workers when to start building. Without that signal, the bricks just sit there in a pile. Certain foods provide both the bricks and the signal, and the research is pointing toward one food in particular, often overlooked, that does this better than eggs and costs a fraction of the price. In this video, I am going to walk you through the science of why this matters, reveal what this food is, and show you how to use it strategically to keep building muscle no matter your age. We will look at studies on amino acid signaling, insulin's role in muscle metabolism, and how even people in their 80s can reverse muscle loss with the right approach. And I will give you practical ways to put this into action today. Because at the end of the day, your muscles are your longevity currency. And with the right knowledge, you can keep adding deposits well into your 80s and beyond. When most people hear the word muscle, they immediately think of bodybuilders or athletes. But here is what is really going on inside your body. Muscle is not just about how you look in the mirror. It is the largest metabolic organ you have. In fact, your skeletal muscle is one of the most powerful regulators of your entire health span. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body as a hybrid car. You have a battery and you have a fuel tank. Your muscles are like the engine that determines how efficiently that energy gets used. The stronger and healthier your muscle is, the more efficiently you burn the fuel. The weaker and smaller your muscle mass, the more that energy gets stored as fat. That is why people who lose muscle as they age often see their waistline expand, their blood sugar climb, and their energy plummet, even if their diet has not dramatically changed. Here's what the research shows. Muscle is the primary site where your body disposes of blood sugar. When you eat carbohydrates, your blood sugar rises. Insulin is released, and it shuttles that sugar into your muscle tissue for use or storage. But if you do not have much muscle, or if the muscle you do have is not metabolically active, your body has nowhere to put that sugar. So instead, it stays in the bloodstream or gets stored as fat in the liver and belly. This is the root cause of insulin resistance, prediabetes, and type 2 diabetes. So, when we talk about building and maintaining muscle, it is not just a vanity project. It is literally a survival project. It is the difference between a metabolism that burns sugar efficiently and one that leaves you with constant fatigue, cravings, and weight gain. Now let us talk about longevity. A landmark study published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that older adults with more muscle mass had a significantly lower risk of dying over a 10-year period compared to those with low muscle mass, independent of weight. In other words, having muscle was a stronger predictor of survival than the number on the scale. But here's the problem. Starting in your 30s, you begin to lose about 3 to 8% of your muscle mass every decade. By the time you are in your 70s, the rate of loss accelerates dramatically. This is why so many older adults struggle to get up from a chair, carry groceries, or even walk steadily. It is not just aging, it is preventable muscle decline. And here's the hopeful part. Studies show that even people in their 70s and 80s can build new muscle tissue when they combine the right nutrition with simple resistance training. Your body does not have an age limit on growth. It just needs the right signals. Think of it like a light switch. Your muscle tissue is sitting there waiting for a signal that says repair, grow, strengthen. That signal comes from two places. Number one, the physical stimulus, like lifting a weight, climbing stairs, or using resistance bands. Number two, the nutritional signal, which comes from amino acids, the building blocks of protein. When you put those two together, you flip the switch. That is how you can rebuild muscle, even if you are 80 years old. This is why our conversation today is so critical. If your only focus is on calories or on eating healthy in a vague sense, you can completely miss the importance of targeting muscle. And if you lose muscle, you lose metabolic control, you lose mobility, you lose resilience against disease. But if you preserve and rebuild muscle, you protect yourself against insulin resistance, you burn fat more efficiently, and you age with strength and energy. Now, let me challenge you here. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day, breaking down the science of how to protect your body and extend your health span. Because what you are learning right now is not common knowledge, but it can absolutely change the trajectory of your life. So the first key takeaway is this: muscle is not optional, it is not decorative, it is your body's ultimate currency for metabolism and longevity. And in the next section, we are going to bust one of the biggest myths about protein: why eggs, while useful, are not the most efficient way to trigger muscle growth, especially as you get older. For decades, eggs have been put on a pedestal as the perfect protein. You have probably heard the phrase, eggs contain all 9 essential amino acids, so they are the gold standard. And yes, eggs do contain a full spectrum of amino acids. But here's what is really going on inside your body. Not all proteins are created equal when it comes to triggering muscle growth, especially as you age. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine 2 different fire alarms. One is extremely sensitive, just a small wisp of smoke, and it goes off immediately. The other requires a full house fire before it reacts. In your body, different proteins act like different alarms for muscle growth. Some proteins contain a higher amount of a special amino acid called leucine, which is like the smoke detector for muscle protein synthesis. Leucine tells your body it is time to build. Eggs do contain leucine, but here is the catch. The leucine content per serving is relatively modest compared to other protein sources. This means you would need to eat a larger amount of eggs to flip that muscle building switch. And for older adults who may already struggle with appetite or digestion, that is not always realistic. Research backs this up. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that older adults need a higher leucine threshold per meal to stimulate muscle growth compared to younger people. In other words, what works in your 20s or 30s does not work as efficiently in your 70s or 80s. Your muscles become more resistant to the anabolic signal, so you need a stronger push. This phenomenon is called anabolic resistance. Now, here is where things get interesting. While eggs provide good nutrition, they may not deliver enough of that anabolic push on their own. This is one reason why so many older adults eat healthy, including eggs, but still lose muscle year after year. They are missing the signal strength. Let us zoom out for a moment. Eggs give you about 6 grams of protein each, with about half a gram of leucine. But the research shows you need about 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine in a single meal to maximally stimulate muscle protein synthesis in older adults. That means you would need to eat 5 or 6 eggs at once just to hit the threshold. And very few people in their 70s or 80s are going to do that consistently. This is why we have to rethink the eggs are perfect narrative. They are nutritious, Yes, but they are not the most efficient tool if your goal is to rebuild muscle later in life. Let me give you a visual analogy. Picture your muscle like a garden. The amino acids are seeds. Eggs provide some seeds, but not enough fertilizer. Without the fertilizer, the seeds will not sprout into a thriving garden. Other foods, which we will reveal in a moment, act as both the seeds and the fertilizer, creating a much stronger growth signal. Another important piece here is digestion. As we age, stomach acid and digestive enzyme production naturally decline. That means older adults may not break down and absorb proteins as effectively as younger people. Eggs are relatively easy to digest, but still, the modest leucine content makes them a weaker trigger under these conditions. So what does this mean practically? It means if you are in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, and you are relying on 1 or 2 eggs at breakfast to cover your protein needs, you are almost certainly underdosing your muscle. Over time, that leads to gradual decline, weaker legs, slower metabolism, more fat storage, and higher risk of falls. Now, I am not saying to throw eggs out completely. They can be part of a balanced diet, but I am saying do not mistake them for the most powerful muscle-building food. There are cheaper, more effective options that hit the leucine threshold faster, require smaller volumes of food, and create a stronger anabolic signal. And that is exactly where we are heading next, because researchers have identified an overlooked, affordable protein source that outperforms eggs at stimulating muscle growth. Even in older adults, it is not exotic, it is not expensive, and it is probably sitting on the shelves of your local grocery store right now. In the next section, we are going to break down exactly what that food is, why it works so well physiologically, and how you can use it strategically to start reversing muscle loss today. So if eggs are not the most efficient way to trigger muscle growth as we age, what food is? The answer might surprise you. It is whey protein, one of the cheapest, most accessible protein sources on the planet, and one of the most powerful triggers of muscle protein synthesis, even for people in their 70s and 80s. Here is what is really going on inside your body when you consume whey. Unlike many other proteins, whey is absorbed rapidly and delivers a very high concentration of leucine in a small dose. Remember leucine? That is the amino acid switch that tells your muscles to start building. Whey contains about 2.5 grams of leucine per 20 grams of protein. That means a single scoop of whey protein powder can flip the anabolic switch more effectively than eating 5 or 6 eggs. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your muscles are like a light bulb that requires a certain voltage before it will turn on. Eggs provide some voltage, but not quite enough to light the bulb unless you eat a lot of them. Whey protein, on the other hand, provides the exact amount of voltage you need in one shot. The bulb lights up, the signal is sent, and muscle building begins. The science is compelling. A 2016 study published in Nutrients compared whey protein to other protein sources in older adults. The researchers found that whey protein produced a stronger and faster rise in blood amino acid levels, especially leucine, and resulted in significantly greater muscle protein synthesis. In other words, whey outperformed other proteins, including eggs, in getting muscles to grow. Another study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that older adults who consumed whey protein after resistance exercise built more lean muscle mass compared to those consuming casein or soy protein. Whey is particularly effective because it is both rapidly digested and rich in the exact amino acids aging muscles need the most. Now, why is this so important in your 70s or 80s? Because of that concept we discussed earlier, anabolic resistance. As you age, your muscles do not respond as strongly to protein signals. It is like the volume knob is turned down, so you need a louder signal, and whey provides that. It is like switching from a small flashlight to a floodlight. The message gets through clearly, even in older muscle tissue. And here is the best part. Whey protein is cheap. A tub of whey protein powder can provide 20 to 30 servings, each with enough leucine to maximize muscle protein synthesis. Compare that to buying dozens of eggs or expensive cuts of meat, and the cost per serving is a fraction. For many older adults on a budget, this makes whey not only the most effective choice, but also the most realistic. Now, you might be wondering, what about digestion? Can older adults tolerate whey? The good news is, whey protein isolate, one of the most refined forms, contains very little lactose, which makes it easy to digest for most people, even those with lactose sensitivity. And because it mixes into water, smoothies, or even oatmeal, it is easy to consume without the bulk of eating large amounts of food. Here is a practical protocol. To maximize muscle building, aim for 20 to 30 grams of whey protein once or twice per day, ideally after resistance exercise or as part of your breakfast. That will give you the leucine threshold needed to trigger muscle protein synthesis. If you combine this with even simple strength exercises like chair squats, wall push-ups, or resistance band pulls, the effect is multiplied. You are giving your body both the physical and nutritional signals at the same time. Now, let me pause for a moment and invite you, if this information is helpful, subscribe to this channel. I share evidence-based, practical tools like this every day to help you protect your metabolism, rebuild your energy, and extend your health span naturally. So here's the big insight. Eggs are good, but whey protein is great. It delivers more leucine, faster absorption, stronger signaling, and greater muscle growth at a lower cost. It is one of the most powerful anti-aging foods you can add to your diet, and it proves that you are never too old to start rebuilding strength. Next, we're going to explore another critical layer, your hormones. Because it is not just about protein, hormones like insulin and cortisol can either unlock or block the benefits of whey and other proteins. Understanding how to align your nutrition with your hormones is the next step to making sure your muscle building efforts actually work. So far, we have focused on protein quality and why whey outperforms eggs in stimulating muscle growth. But here is what is really going on inside your body. Protein alone is not the whole story. Hormones are the master controllers of whether that protein actually gets used to build muscle or whether it gets wasted. Two of the most important hormones here are insulin and cortisol. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine you are trying to build a house. You have the bricks, that is your protein. You have the workers, that is your muscle tissue. But you also need permits from the city before construction can begin. Hormones are those permits. Without them, the workers just stand around and the bricks sit idle. First, let us talk about insulin. Many people only think of insulin as a bad hormone linked to diabetes. But in the right amounts and at the right times, insulin is actually anabolic, meaning it helps your body build. After you eat protein and carbohydrates, insulin rises. That insulin does two things. It helps shuttle amino acids into your muscle cells, and it reduces muscle breakdown. In other words, insulin works like a lock and key, opening the door for protein to enter your muscles where it can be used for repair and growth. Now, here is the nuance. You do not want insulin spiking all day long from constant snacking, processed carbohydrates, and sugary foods. That leads to insulin resistance and fat storage. But strategically timed insulin, like the natural rise after a protein-rich meal or after exercise, is exactly what you want. This is why pairing whey protein with a small amount of healthy carbohydrate, such as berries or oats, can actually amplify muscle building. The insulin response acts as a delivery system, ensuring the amino acids get into the muscle. On the other side of the equation is cortisol. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone, and it is catabolic, meaning it breaks tissue down. Think of cortisol as the demolition crew. In short bursts, cortisol helps mobilize energy, which can be useful. But when cortisol is elevated chronically from stress, poor sleep, or even excessive endurance exercise, it eats away at muscle tissue. This is why people under chronic stress often feel weaker, experience fatigue, and notice they gain belly fat even if they are eating healthy. What the research shows is that older adults are especially vulnerable to cortisol's muscle wasting effects. A study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that elevated cortisol was strongly correlated with reduced muscle mass and strength in older populations. That means if you are not managing stress and sleep, even the best protein in the world will not deliver the results you want. So how do you align your hormones to support muscle growth? Here are 3 practical protocols. Number 1, time your proteins strategically. Consuming whey protein within 30 to 60 minutes after resistance exercise takes advantage of both the exercise-induced insulin sensitivity and the natural post-workout anabolic window. This is when your muscles are most ready to absorb nutrients. Number 2, pair protein with recovery. Sleep is when your body does most of its repair work. If you are chronically sleep deprived, cortisol levels remain high and blunt the anabolic effect of protein. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of high-quality sleep each night. A simple evening routine such as dimming lights, avoiding screens, and practicing slow breathing can lower cortisol and prime your body for recovery. Number 3, manage stress daily. Short, intentional stress, like resistance training or brief cold exposure, can be beneficial. But chronic psychological stress is toxic to muscle. Practices such as meditation, walking outdoors, or even 10 minutes of quiet journaling lower cortisol and help shift your body back into an anabolic state. Here's the bottom line. Protein gives your body the raw materials, but insulin and cortisol decide what happens to those materials. When insulin is working properly, it is like opening the gates and allowing protein to flow directly into muscle. When cortisol is too high, it is like sending in bulldozers that tear down the structure before it is built. Balancing these hormones is the difference between thriving muscle and wasted effort. And this is exactly why many people in their 70s and 80s who are eating protein but living under constant stress or sleeping poorly still lose muscle year after year. It is not just what you eat, but how your hormonal environment allows that food to be used. Now, in the next section, we are going to put it all together. I will show you exactly how to structure your meals, your timing, and your daily habits, so that this cheap, powerful food, whey protein, works with your hormones, not against them. This will be the practical, step-by-step plan you can start using immediately. Now that we understand why whey protein is so powerful and how insulin and cortisol can make or break your results, let us put everything into action. Because knowledge without a plan is like having the blueprints for a house, but never picking up a hammer. So let us walk through a practical step-by-step protocol for using whey protein strategically to build muscle, even in your 70s or 80s. Step number 1, start your day with protein. Most older adults eat a carbohydrate-heavy breakfast. Toast, cereal, maybe a little fruit. The problem is that does not come close to flipping the muscle-building switch. Instead, replace or enhance your breakfast with a whey protein shake. Aim for 20 to 30 grams of whey protein. This will deliver the leucine threshold needed to stimulate muscle protein synthesis right from the beginning of the day. You can blend it with water, unsweetened almond milk, or mix it into oatmeal. Adding a handful of berries or half a banana provides a gentle insulin rise, helping those amino acids move directly into muscle cells. Step number 2. Pair protein with movement. The single most powerful time to consume whey is within 30 to 60 minutes after resistance exercise. And resistance exercise does not mean you have to join a gym. It can be as simple as chair squats, wall push-ups, resistance band rows, or climbing stairs. The act of stressing your muscles increases insulin sensitivity, meaning your muscles become like sponges, ready to soak up amino acids. Drinking a whey shake after this movement supercharges the effect. Step number 3. Spread protein across the day. One of the biggest mistakes older adults make is eating most of their protein at dinner. Research shows it is far more effective to distribute protein evenly across your meals. So instead of saving it all for one sitting, aim for 20 to 30 grams of protein at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This gives your muscles multiple opportunities throughout the day to trigger growth. Step number 4. Combine whey with whole foods. Whey protein is powerful, but it is not meant to be your only source. Pair it with nutrient-dense whole foods like salmon, chicken, lentils, or Greek yogurt. Whole foods provide additional nutrients such as omega-3 fats, vitamins, and minerals that support muscle metabolism. Think of whey as the spark plug and whole foods as the steady fuel. Both together keep your engine running smoothly. Step number 5. Manage recovery windows. Remember, cortisol blocks muscle growth. One of the most overlooked strategies is to reduce evening stress and prioritize sleep. If you struggle to stay asleep, try a small serving of whey protein or Greek yogurt before bed. Research suggests that a protein top-up at night can support overnight muscle repair and may even improve satiety and morning energy. Step number 6. Supplement wisely. If you want to take things one step further, consider pairing whey protein with creatine monohydrate. Multiple studies show creatine boosts muscle strength and lean mass even in older adults. A simple dose of 3 to 5 grams daily, combined with whey protein, creates a synergistic effect. This is safe, well-studied, and highly effective for maintaining muscle and bone health. Now, here is a simple example day to illustrate. Breakfast. A whey protein shake with unsweetened almond milk, 1 handful of berries, and a tablespoon of ground flaxseed. Lunch. A salad with grilled chicken or salmon, plus a small scoop of whey protein mixed into water as a quick add-on. Afternoon. A short resistance workout followed immediately by a whey shake, 25 grams of protein, blended with half a banana. Dinner. A balanced plate with lean protein, vegetables, and healthy fats like olive oil. Evening. If appetite allows, a small serving of Greek yogurt or half a scoop of whey to support overnight recovery. That is a full day where you have stimulated muscle protein synthesis at least 3 to 4 times, maximized insulin sensitivity through exercise and timing, and protected yourself from cortisol-driven breakdown by managing recovery. And here's the key. It is not complicated and it is not expensive. Whey protein costs less than a cup of coffee per serving, and the exercises require no equipment. What you are really doing is giving your body the exact signals it needs at the exact times it can respond. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post daily content with practical strategies just like this, so you can apply the latest science directly to your daily life. Now that we have laid out the step-by-step plan, let us zoom out and look at the long-term vision. In the next section, I will explain how protecting and growing muscle is not just about strength today, but about building an insurance policy for decades of energy, mobility, and longevity. Up until now, we have focused on the nuts and bolts, the proteins, the hormones, the timing, and the daily routines that help you build muscle. But let us step back and look at the bigger picture. Because muscle is not just about today's workout or tomorrow's breakfast. Muscle is about protecting your future self. It is your body's ultimate insurance policy for energy, mobility, independence, and longevity. Here is what is really going on inside your body. Muscle is a reservoir. It stores glucose when you need it. It releases amino acids in times of stress or illness, and it burns fat efficiently when you are active. Without muscle, you lose metabolic flexibility. The ability to switch between burning sugar and burning fat. That flexibility is the foundation of stable energy, clear thinking, and healthy aging. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your muscle mass like the savings account at your bank. Every time you do resistance exercise and eat high-quality protein, you are making a deposit. Every time you skip protein, stay sedentary, or allow cortisol to run unchecked, you are making a withdrawal. If your balance is high, you can weather challenges like an illness, a fall, or a stressful season of life without losing independence. But if your balance is low, even small setbacks can drain you completely. The research is clear. A study published in The Lancet showed that older adults with greater muscle strength had lower risks of heart disease, cancer, and even dementia. Another long-term study in the Journal of Gerontology found that people with higher muscle mass live significantly longer, regardless of body weight or body fat percentage. In other words, muscle is a more reliable predictor of healthy aging than the scale. Now think about what that means in practical terms. Having strong legs and core muscles means you can climb stairs without fear. It means you can get out of a chair without help. It means you can carry groceries, play with your grandchildren, and travel without worrying about fatigue or falls. These are not just conveniences, they are markers of independence. Here is something powerful. Muscle even protects your brain. During exercise, muscle tissue releases myokines, chemical messengers that cross into the brain and support learning, memory, and mood. Researchers sometimes call muscle an endocrine organ because it communicates with every system in the body. So when you preserve your muscle, you are not just protecting your body, you are protecting your mind. And here is where the story comes full circle. Many people assume decline is inevitable in their 70s or 80s. But the science tells us something different. With the right nutrition like whey protein and consistent resistance exercise, older adults can not only slow muscle loss, but actually gain new muscle tissue. It is never too late. Your muscles are listening for signals, and they will respond if you give them the right ones. So let us connect the dots. Whey protein is not just cheaper and more effective than eggs. It is a tool to help you make daily deposits into your muscle savings account. Balance insulin signaling and control cortisol levels are the gatekeepers that allow those deposits to count. And consistent movement, even 10 to 15 minutes per day, ensures that those deposits grow with interest. What the research shows is simple. People who reach their 70s and 80s with strong functional muscle live longer, feel younger, and maintain independence. They burn fat more efficiently, keep their blood sugar stable, and reduce their risk of chronic disease. Muscle is longevity medicine. So the long-term vision is as every scoop of whey, every set of squats, every walk taken instead of skipped is a vote for your future self. It is a decision that says, I am not just surviving aging, I am thriving through it. Now, in the conclusion, we are going to tie this all together. I will recap the key physiological insights, highlight the practical steps you can take immediately, and give you one direct challenge to put this knowledge into action today. Because knowledge is only power when you use it. Let us take a step back and review what we have learned. We started with a simple but powerful idea. Eggs, while nutritious, are not the most efficient food for building muscle, especially as we age. The real key is not just eating protein, but eating the right kind of protein that sends a strong enough signal to overcome anabolic resistance. Here is what is really going on inside your body. Muscle is not just strength tissue. It is your metabolic engine, your blood sugar regulator, your fat-burning furnace, and even a source of brain protective chemicals. Lose muscle, and you lose metabolic control, energy, and independence. Build muscle, and you protect yourself from diabetes, obesity, falls, and even cognitive decline. We then broke down the myth of eggs as the perfect protein. While eggs are valuable, their leucine content per serving is too modest to consistently trigger muscle protein synthesis in older adults. To reach the leucine threshold, you would need to eat 5 or 6 eggs at once, something very few people can do day after day. That led us to the surprising solution: whey protein, cheap, accessible, easy to digest, and loaded with leucine. Whey is one of the most powerful muscle-building foods available. Just one scoop provides the leucine voltage needed to flip the muscle-building switch, even in people in their 70s and 80s. But food alone is not enough. Hormones like insulin and cortisol decide whether that protein actually gets used. Strategic timing, such as pairing whey with resistance exercise or distributing protein evenly across the day, amplifies the results. And managing stress and sleep keeps cortisol in check, ensuring your hard-earned protein is